Classic.
Who invited the Euro? I thought we didn't allow Euros in Spain. Who invited the Euro? Seriously.
What's up guys, my name is Gazzy B, welcome back to the vlog. I'm getting abused from my table mates today in this 5-5-10 game at the Hustler Casino. Apparently no Euros allowed, squeezing this ace-queen offsuit in the first hand of the day to $160, only for the original raiser to put in the 4-bet and force me to fold. Not off to the best of starts today. Results for the trip are on your screen right now, down around 9k so far, but I've been playing some big games, we got time to get it back, I'm not worried. Off to a particularly bad start today, losing every hand for the first hour, stuck about $800 so far, just losing a bunch of small pots, no luck with the ace queen there. Let's try ace jack instead. The small blind raises to $60, straddle is now on today. The small blind is a non-pro, and then the middle blind is a local reg, he makes it $200 to go. I cold 4-bet to $475, slightly widening my cold 4-bet range because the reg will be wider to target the non-pro. My plan is going to work brilliantly, and they both just let their hands go. This is the first significant pot of the day that I've won today, and no time to count my stack because just a few hands later I've got king queen offsuit in the cutoff. I raise it on up to $50. An unknown player called Rohan is going to put in the re-raise, he makes it $205 to go. This is the guy that just 4-bet me, and it's also like the third or fourth time that he's 3-bet me in the first hour today, so as I'm folding I have to ask him,
can you stop doing that please? Every fucking hand.
Alright, let's get a little more serious here, picking up this ace-10 offsuit in the middle blind. The cutoff is a recreational player, he's limped in, I make it $80 to go. The straddle calls, and the cutoff calls as well. We go 3 ways to the flop, it is ace-5 deuce rainbow. I'm going to check it on over to the straddle, he is going to check it on over to the cutoff, and the cutoff is going to take a stab for $50. I don't think my hand is strong enough to check raise here, so I just call, and the straddle gets out the way. The turn is the 4 of spades bringing a backdoor flush draw. I check it on over to my opponent, and he just checks it on back. The river is the 9 that completes that backdoor flush, and I'm thinking about whether or not to bet here, but if we bet, we're kind of just targeting hands like ace-6, ace-7, ace-8. It feels like we can't really get called by worse here, so I check it on over to my opponent, just hoping he takes a stab here or maybe tries to bluff or something. He bets $100, I snap call, and he laughs and shakes his head. I tell him I've got an ace, I don't make him show. He tells me my ace is good, and I drag in another pot. Now only down $250 for the day so far, getting closer to even. Next up I'm in the straddle, I've got king deuce of spades. The cutoff is raised to $50, he's the guy that was jokingly telling me no euros allowed earlier. I'm going to make the call out of the straddle, and we see the flop come down king high. Good start here. And my opponent is going to size up on this board. He bets out for $80. I'm of course not folding, I'm not raising. I go ahead and make the call. The turn is the 4 of hearts, double flush draw on board now. This board is very wet indeed. And my opponent is going to size up even more. He's going to overbet to $325. This is a little gross, but my deuce of spades unblocks all the bluffs. He's going to barrel with 8-9, jack-9, queen-jack, hearts, diamonds. My hand is a really nice unblocker candidate to call down with here, so I call the turn, maybe having to call it off on the river if my opponent decides to jam. The river is a 10 of hearts, it pairs the second card, the flush gets there as well. I checked my opponent, bit of hope when he snap checks back. I announce king, but he's got ace king offsuit, big sigh. 1 step forward today, 1 step back, can't seem to get any momentum. And what's worse, I'm going to go super card dead for the next hour and 20 minutes, no hands of note making the vlog here, before I finally pick up a playable hand in the form of ace-8 of diamonds in the small blind. The hijack is limped in for $20, I make it $80 to go. The middle blind calls, and the hijack calls as well. We go 3 ways to the flop here, it is king king 8 with 2 spades. I think my hand is definitely strong enough to c-bet here, so I bet out for $85. The middle blind is going to get out the way, and the hijack is going to make the call. The turn is a pretty interesting one, it's another king. I'm thinking about whether or not we should bet here. There's definitely value to be had, but I decide to check. I check it on over to my opponent, and he just checks it on back. The river is a 9, and he shouldn't have much 9x in his range. He should have some worse full houses, so I decide to go for value here. I bet $225, just an exploitative size, trying to get called by pocket 5s or something. He very quickly calls the river. I'm expecting maybe a chop here, but when I show my hand, he nods, and he can't beat it. He mucks his cards, and another nice pot is coming my way. Next up, I've got pocket jacks in the small blind, and what's more, the $40 straddle is on here. Shout out to Chris for being a degen. The button is going to raise to $100. He's a local player that I played with really often in the past. We're about $1,800 effective here. I'm of course putting in the re-raise, and I make it $375 to go. It folds all the way around to the button. I am willing him to go all in. I'm of course snap calling, but he does just make the call here. We're going heads up to the flop, very bloated here because of the double straddle. It comes down king 7-4 with 2 hearts. Don't love that overcard, but he's not the type to call a hand like king queen offsuit or king jack offsuit here, and I block king jack suited, so I'm not too worried about that overcard all in all. I think we want to see bet here for sure. I bet out for $250. My opponent thinks for a few seconds and makes the call. The turn is an offsuit 9. I don't think we can barrel the turn here with pocket jack, so I check it on over to my opponent, and after a few seconds he checks it on back. My plan is to block bet a lot of rivers, but the 8 rolls off, and I don't think we can block bet now. Hands like pocket 8s have improved, 7-8 has improved, 8-9 of hearts has improved. If it's like an offsuit deuce, there's plenty of worse hands that can call, but this river is not great, so I do decide to check. My opponent fairly quickly checks back. I announce jacks, I turn them over, and he can't beat it. I'm quite friendly with this guy, but he doesn't mention what he had. I'm really curious to see what he had here. Maybe just a one pair type hand. This is the first nice pot of the day coming my way. Finally climbing back out the hole. Only down $330. Getting really excited as I peel pocket aces just a couple of minutes later, but a c-bet on the flop is just gonna take it down. Somewhat anticlimactic. Next up, we've got pocket 8s about 50 minutes later in the cutoff. I raise it on up to $50. The button is a super aggressive player. He makes it $225 to go. He has 3-bet me relentlessly on this trip. He always seems to be sitting on my left, giving me a hard time when I'm playing. This guy is really aggressive. I am definitely not folding. It is a bigger 3-bet than normal, but I do make the call here. We go heads up to the flop. It is 9-7 deuce rainbow. Only one overcard, and it's not that scary an overcard. I check it on over to my opponent. He bets $300, which is a big bet, but I'm just going to be honest. I am calling this guy down in this hand. If he's got me, he's just got me. I make the call. We see the 4 of diamonds roll off on the turn, brings a flush draw. I check it on over to my opponent, and he does just check it on back. Really confident I've got the best hand now, and the offsuit deuce on the river shouldn't really change anything. I think there's definitely value to be had. I bet out for an exploitative $410, trying to get called by ace high. My opponent quickly calls here. I show my hand, and he nods and says that he had a pure bluff catcher. I think we have just been called very quickly by ace high here. Really nice pot coming my way, and this sends me into profit for the day now. I am up $500. It's been a really long day, really tough grind, super card dead, no big pots of note, lots of action at the table that I've just had to sit and watch. But we're finally in profit for the day. Let's go. Next up, I've got ace queen of diamonds almost an hour later. Like I say, really card dead today. The button is raised to $50. I'm going to put in the re-raise. I make it $225 to go. He is going to make the call, and the flop is queen high. Things going really smoothly for me now. I bet out for $160, 1/3 pot, and after a few seconds, my opponent calls. The turn is an offsuit 4, completes ace 5, 6-5 gets there as well. But I think my hand is strong enough to bet on the turn and shove brick rivers. My opponent's got about 1,700 or so in his stack, so I bet out for $500 on the turn, setting up for the river jam if he calls. My opponent's really thinking it over. He's looking at me, looking at the board. He's picking up his chips. It looks at one point like he's gonna just go ahead and go all in, but a bit anticlimactic. After about a minute or so of tanking and fidgeting, he just folds. I show my cards. He nods and tells me that he had pocket 10s. Why didn't he just stick it in thinking I was bluffing? And I would have very likely won a really big pot. But this is going to send me up $1,510 for the day. Absolutely loving life now. Next up, I've got ace 6 of diamonds in the middle blind. I raise it on up to $70 when it folds to me, and the straddle is going to defend. We go heads up to the flop. Queen 6-5 with 2 diamonds. Really nice start here with middle pair. Very strong middle pair, and the nut flush draw. I'm going to bet out for $50, which is 1/3 pot, and after a few seconds, my opponent makes the call. The turn is the queen of clubs, double flush draw on board now. The top card has paired here, and my strategy when the top card pairs is to just bet for half pot. This isn't because I've got a medium strength hand, ace-6 with the diamonds or anything like that. If I've got 8 high, 9 high, quads, trips, full houses, whatever, I'm gonna just bet half pot here. So I bet out for $125. My hand definitely wants to bet here at least sometimes, and my opponent busts out the raise. He now makes it $375 to go. Wasn't expecting that, but this player is very capable of bluffing here, and if we are behind, we've got outs, so I of course make the call here, looking for a diamond on the river, but it is the deuce of spades. I check it on over to my opponent, and he bets really big here. He bets out for $800. There is a chance that this guy reads my turn size as weak and is exploiting me here by just bluffing really wide, but I know that I've got lots and lots of queen X here. Like I say, this is my only size on the turn. It's nothing to do with my hand strength, which means I arrive to the river with lots of 3 of a kind. I don't think we need to call anything other than 3 of a kind here. We've got a very good candidate for calling here. He shouldn't be bluffing with like missed nut flush draws, and I unblock a lot of his bluffs, but like I say, I don't think we need to call anything other than our queen X. So I just sigh and let it go. Yeah, like I say, bit of an awkward spot, but I think just calling with my queen X here is the right play. It's been a really fun day of poker, but unfortunately the game is going to break like 45 minutes later. We had 2 tables, and then an hour and 15 minutes later, the only table is breaking. It kind of sucks, but it's the way it goes sometimes. I rack up my chips and head to the cashier. I did not record an outro. I've got some technical issues with my big camera right now. So let's put results on screen. I won $958 for the day. Really happy with that. This sends me down only 8.2k for the trip, slowly climbing out the hole. I've played 91 hours. My hourly is minus $90 an hour. Not great, but like I say, really hopeful I can get out the hole for the trip here. As for the session, it was a lot of fun, really enjoyable game. Just a little card dead. I feel like I played quite well today though. So yeah, happy with that. Really appreciate you guys tuning in. If you've enjoyed the show, go ahead and click that sub button, and I shall see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Take it easy.